My name is Sophia Bennett, and for the last 7 years, I have lived my life in the third row of the Maple Ridge HOA Community Center. It was a special kind of suburban purgatory that smelled of cheap coffee, lemon-scented disinfectant, and the faint desperation of people who just wanted to mow their lawns in peace. Every single HOA meeting, yes, they held them religiously every Sunday afternoon like it was some holy ritual. The heavy double doors would slam shut at 2 o'clock sharp, sealing 200 homeowners inside a windowless hall chilled to a crisp 68 degrees. Sunlight fought its way through the cheap blinds, painting the beige carpet in sad little stripes. But the beauty always felt fake, like a stage set where everyone knew their lines except me. I sat where the covenant told me to sit. The third row was reserved for bored family and longtime residents, the inner circle of the Maple Ridge elite. My seat was a folding chair upholstered in worn burgundy vinyl that stuck to the backs of your thighs in summer. Directly to my right sat my husband, Marcus Bennett, HOA treasurer, golden boy of President Gloria Hargrove, and the man who held the deed to every inch of my sanity. But it wasn't Marcus who occupied my thoughts when the gavel banged open the meeting. It was the presence behind me. I didn't need to turn around. I could feel him. That prickling at the base of my neck happened like clockwork every single Sunday. For 7 years, the same man had sat exactly one row behind me. Not directly behind Marcus. Not in the middle. Directly behind my left shoulder, offset just enough that a 45-degree turn would lock our eyes. Average build, late 40s, suits that were clean but 10 years out of style. Off-the-rack gray or brown that let him vanish into the background. He never sat with anyone, never raised a hand during the community pledge, never volunteered for the refreshment committee. He just sat there, week after week, year after year. As the meeting opened and Gloria's voice boomed through the tinny speakers, I felt Marcus's hand slide into mine. To the balcony cameras or the nosy neighbors in row 5, it looked like tender spousal support. I knew better. His thumb dug into the soft flesh between my knuckles like a vice. "Don't turn around," he whispered, lips barely moving, eyes fixed on the podium like a saint. "That creep is obsessed with you again." I stiffened, forcing my gaze forward. "Good," Marcus murmured, tightening until I bit the inside of my cheek. "It's neighborhood warfare, Sophia. He's drawn to your weakness. If you were stronger in your covenant walk, he wouldn't be preying on you with those eyes." The narrative had been built brick by brick over the years. According to Marcus, the man was a lonely pervert with a creepy crush on the treasurer's wife. According to Gloria, he was a spiritual burden we had to bear, a test of our HOA compassion, or maybe a demonic influence I'd invited through some secret violation of the covenants. They never asked him to leave. They never confronted him. They just used him as another reason why I needed to be monitored, protected, and corrected. Gloria ascended the podium like a queen. She was a tall woman with helmet hair sprayed into submission and a voice that could file down granite. She gripped the sides with manicured hands, wearing oversized HOA pins, and looked out over her flock with a gaze that demanded absolute submission. "Today," she boomed, "we discuss the virtue of silence, the beauty of a spirit that does not contend. The covenants tell us a quarrelsome homeowner is like a dripping faucet on a Sunday afternoon." Polite laughter rippled through the room. I felt heat rise in my cheeks. It wasn't the first time the agenda felt custom-tailored for me. Marcus shifted, his thigh pressing against mine like a wall of judgment. "True covenant harmony," Gloria continued, dropping her voice to a conspiratorial whisper, "is shown in obedience. It is shown when we stop asking questions and start trusting the board the board is placed over us." I felt exposed. Every eye seemed to bore into the back of my head, judging my posture, my choice of neutral beige blouse, my very soul. But the most intense gaze came from a fourth row. I could feel like a laser burning through my cotton. "Let us bow our heads for the opening covenant prayer," Gloria commanded. Fabric rustled as 200 heads lowered. Marcus finally released my hand and clasped his in fake reverence. I lowered my head, but kept my eyes open. My heart hammered. I had to know. Slowly, carefully, I turned my head a fraction, pretending to adjust my collar. I peeked through my fingers. He was there, the man in the gray suit. Head not bowed, eyes wide open. In his lap, a small spiral notebook. He wasn't praying. He was tapping the pen in a steady rhythm. Tap, tap, tap. Then he stopped. He looked up. Our eyes met for 1 second. Pale, icy blue. No lust. No adoration. Only cold clinical assessment. He looked at me the way an auditor looks at cooked books. Then his gaze shifted past me, to the back of Marcus's head, to the podium where Gloria was droning about the blessings of timely dues. He wrote something down. A quick slash of ink. I whipped my head forward before Marcus noticed. What was he writing? Why would a stalker take notes during a sermon on covenant obedience? The meeting dragged on. The post-meeting coffee hour was torture. I stood beside Marcus, smiling until my jaw ached, accepting compliments on how blessed I was to be married to such a fine treasurer. You look tired, Sophia, Marcus said as we walked toward the exit, his hand on the small of my back steering me like a shopping cart. Your smile didn't reach your eyes today. People noticed. Headache, I lied. Maybe if you wore less makeup, he said, voice dripping faux concern. It draws the wrong attention. That man in the 4th row stared at the back of your neck the whole time. If you presented yourself more modestly, maybe he'd stop following us. I was wearing tinted moisturizer and a swipe of lip gloss. Marcus knew that. But in his world, any attention I received was my fault. I touched my cheek. I didn't do anything. Defensiveness is a sign of a guilty conscience, he countered smoothly, waving at the landscaping committee chair as we pushed through the glass doors into the blinding sun. The heat of the parking lot hit like a slap. As we approached our pristine white SUV, I saw movement. The man in gray was walking parallel, heading to an old sedan 2 rows over. He carried a binder that looked like meeting minutes. He wasn't looking at us. But as he passed, he paused, looked up, and our eyes met across the asphalt. Marcus was busy unlocking the car, grumbling about a scratch. The man didn't smile. He gave one sharp nod. Acknowledgement. Then his eyes slid to the car, to Marcus's back, to the license plate. Memorizing. He turned and kept walking. Get in the car, Sophia, Marcus snapped. Stop daydreaming. That night, in our sprawling McMansion inside the gated Maple Ridge, Marcus prayed out loud before bed like always. Lord, I lift up my wife tonight. Forgive her rebellious spirit. Forgive her vanity that draws the eyes of wicked men. Cleanse her heart so she may be a fit helper for the covenants you have entrusted to me. I stared at the ceiling fan, numb. But my mind was back in the 4th row. 7 years. Always 1 row behind. Always slightly left. If he was a stalker, why no letters? No touches? No proximity? Stalkers want ownership. This man seemed to be studying the space around me, the gap between me and Marcus, the angle to the podium, the projector screen showing financial slides. A perfect vantage point. I told myself I was imagining things. Marcus was right. I was looking for drama to distract from my own covenant failings. I didn't know then that the man's position wasn't random. I didn't know the notebook was filling with dates, times, and dollar amounts. I wouldn't understand the terrifying architecture of those Sunday meetings until the day the gavel fell silent and a polished mahogany casket was placed exactly in the center aisle, changing the seating chart forever. Looking back, it's almost embarrassing how easy I was to recruit. I used to call it falling in love. What happened between Marcus Bennett and me was a targeted acquisition. I was 24, working as a part-time accountant for a landscaping supply company, living in a tiny apartment that smelled of curry from next door. Painfully average. Lonely. Searching for something bigger than my paycheck. When a college friend invited me to a Maple Ridge open house, I didn't just walk into a neighborhood. I walked into a production. The community center had professional lighting. The sound system cost more than my parents' retirement. The people looked airbrushed, and at the center were the Hargroves and the Bennetts. Gloria Hargrove was the HOA president, CEO of rules. Her husband was the enforcer. Marcus was the treasurer, standing at the podium with a PowerPoint of community improvements, backlit like a halo. His smile could sell flood insurance in a desert. The first time he looked at me during the meet and greet, I felt pulled into the sun. He pursued me with biblical intensity, bouquets of white roses to my cubicle, coffee dates where he prayed over my destiny in the covenants. He told me God had revealed I was his missing rib. We would build a legacy together. 3 months later, I said yes to the ring. The wedding was a spectacle. 500 guests, photographers everywhere. It wasn't a union. It was a coronation. Gloria picked my dress. Marcus's father-in-law preached a 40-minute sermon on the treasurer's authority. I felt chosen. Reality hit 2 weeks after the honeymoon. We were at Gloria's mansion for dinner. Fine china, but conversation was business. Gloria wiped her mouth. Sophia, Marcus tells me you have a finance background. I nodded proudly. Good, she said. The board, has been speaking to us about the Maple Ridge Improvement Fund. The books are a mess. We need someone trustworthy. They set me up in a windowless basement office. Volunteer at first. Then Marcus insisted I quit my job. Your time is too valuable for secular commerce. Within a month, I was working 50 hours a week for free. When I asked about a stipend, Marcus looked hurt. This isn't a job. It's a calling. We're laying up treasures in the covenants. Why focus on earthly currency? Gloria chuckled. Your needs are provided for. Marcus takes care of the house. Your salary is the roof and the privilege of serving. Don't let greed take root. I cried in the bathroom for 20 minutes, then went back to work. The improvement fund looked pristine on paper, brochures of smiling kids at the future community pool. But the ledger told another story. Thousands categorized under consulting fees, pastoral, board discretionary, undisclosed improvements. I asked Marcus about a $5,000 check to a company I'd never heard of. Secure overseas landscaping project, he snapped. You want their blood on your hands if names leak. I stopped asking. Isolation crept in like a dimmer switch. My parents were first. Practical people. Dad asked the wrong question at dinner. How's the new gig paying? Marcus stiffened. We're stewarding church? No, covenant property. Later, Mom cornered me. This isn't right. You ask him for money for tampons. I defended them. Marcus forbade contact for a month, season of consecration. After that, phone calls only, with him listening. Maple Ridge wasn't a neighborhood. It was a fortress. We shopped at board-owned businesses. Doctors were in the welcome committee. Dissent was social suicide. I saw what happened to the guy who questioned the Christmas light fine schedule. Rumors spread he had an affair. He vanished. So I smiled. I sat in the 3rd row. And I started keeping a second set of books, hidden in a tampon box in a master bath, the one place Marcus never looked. Dates. Amounts. October 12th. Gloria withdrew $3,000 cash, no receipt. November 4th. Marcus used a fun card at a luxury spa. I wasn't building a case. I was clinging to sanity. It was around year 2 that the man appeared. Second Sunday in January. Gloria had announced a $2 million loan for the community center expansion. I prepared the optimistic balance sheets. I knew the numbers were fake. That Sunday the air was electric. Bank reps in the VIP seats. Marcus on stage leading the pledge. I felt sick. The presence behind me was heavy. I turned. The man in gray sat perfectly still. Notebook on knee. He wrote while looking at the renderings, then at Marcus, then at me. Brief. Calm. Detached. He looked like an auditor. After the meeting, I asked Marcus, "Who is that man in gray?" He shrugged. Shy new homeowner. Gloria met him. Loves the covenants. Socially awkward. Don't worry. But I remembered his eyes. Not hunger. Scrutiny. That night I thought about his notebook. It looked exactly like mine hidden in the bathroom. Next day the loan was signed. $2 million flowed in. Next Sunday the man was back. Row 4, seat 3. He wasn't pledging. He was watching the money. And for the first time in 2 years, I didn't feel entirely alone in the dark. The architecture of the improvement fund was seductive. Gloria didn't ask for donations. She offered partnership. She preached the Joseph anointing. In times of neighborhood famine, God raises storehouses. If you entrusted extra seed money, you'd receive a kingdom yield of 12%, higher than any bank. It was a Ponzi scheme wrapped in covenant language. I tracked inflows, families liquidating 401ks, cashing inheritances. Outflows were the problem. One Tuesday night, Marcus had slipped and left an unredacted statement. $150,000 to Covenant Global Logistics, LLC. $75,000 to Whitestone Consulting. I searched the state registry. Managing member of Whitestone, Marcus Bennett. Covenant Global, Gloria Hargrove. Shell companies. Textbook embezzlement. I was staring at the screen when the office door swung open. Marcus. Smiling but eyes dead. Working late, babe. I stammered about vendor lists. He locked the door. You're digging again. He grabbed my shoulders. Sign this compliance certificate or you're accusing the board of theft. Do you want to destroy the neighborhood? My hand shook. The pen touched paper. A knock. Sorry. Looking for the men's room. The man in gray stood there, confused, act perfect. But his eyes cataloged everything. The locked door, my tears, the statements. He saw. Then he was gone. Marcus slammed the door. Idiot visitors. Sign it. I signed. But my mind was in the hallway with the man who had just witnessed the crime scene. The weight hit me the following Sunday. In the lobby, old Mrs. Marlene clutched my arm. Thank you for the work with the fund, dear. I moved my entire pension yesterday. 30 years of savings. President Gloria says the return will leave a legacy for my grandkids. My stomach dropped. I wanted to scream, take it back. But Marcus was watching from across the lobby, eyes warning. Inside the hall, the lights dimmed for the pledge drive. Gloria took the stage, talking about widows' mites and spiritual rebellion if you held back. A young couple testified they'd given their rent money and received a triple promotion the next day. I recognized the husband, Marcus's cousin. Scripted. I glanced left. The man was timing the pitch, documenting every false promise. His pen tapped Morse code. I see it. I see it. Afterward, I told Marcus I forgot my binder in the car and slipped out. 50 feet away, the man was talking to Marlene's son, Eli, handing him a small white card. Marcus burst out with 2 deacons. The man retracted the card, said something quick to Eli, and walked rapidly to his sedan. Marcus grabbed my elbow. He's a wolf in sheep's clothing. But I realized he had it backward. The wolves were us. That night, I copied files to a hidden drive named Recipes. I was a spy in my own marriage. And the man behind me was the only other person who seemed to know the war had begun. I met Lena at a coffee shop 3 towns over. She was my old corporate litigator friend Marcus had pruned from my life. I slid her the envelope. She read for 10 minutes, face paling. This isn't a neighborhood fund. This is wire fraud, structuring RICO territory. She warned if I signed the certificates, I'd be the fall guy. You need to get out. Take this to the Attorney General. But Marcus tracked my phone. I had to go back. Home. Marcus was slicing lemons. Where were you? Tracking app says Cedar Ridge. I told the truth. He fed the papers into the garbage disposal. Then he grabbed my arm, crushing until bruises bloomed. Let's pray the spirit of accusation out of you. 5 minutes of prayer while I sobbed. When he released, for purple fingerprints marked me. You will not speak to Lena again. Next Sunday, I wore long sleeves in 90-degree heat. During greeting time, the man leaned forward. Are you okay? Not casual. Specific. He was looking at how I cradle my arm. Before I could answer, Marcus clamped my shoulder. My wife is blessed. Eyes on the covenants, brother. The man held the gaze, wrote in his notebook. Noted, Gloria preached loyalty. There are wolves at the gate whispering that our blessings are greed. She looked straight at me. God will not be mocked. Behind me, I heard a soft click. The man had his phone out, filming Gloria on stage with a routing number projected behind her, and the back of my head with Marcus's possessive arm. He was documenting the crime scene. I slipped into the hallway and overheard Marcus and Gloria through a cracked door. She went to the lawyer. We're 2 weeks from the Cayman transfer. Clean up any witnesses. She's my wife. I can control her. If she talks, the insurance policy is our only recoup. I vomited in the restroom. They were planning to liquidate me. I lived a double life for 2 weeks. Daytime, perfect wife. Nighttime informant. Ethan, the man's real name I learned later, gave me a burner. I sent files from coffee shops. His replies, received. Keep digging. We are listening. Lena confirmed. Rico case. When the hammer drops, you're at ground zero. Your name is on the books. They'll say you went rogue. She told me to find the smoking gun, proving intent. I searched Marcus's desk. Found the life insurance policy. $5 million on me, double indemnity for accident, beneficiary Marcus. Rider. Medical waiver forged by a board doctor. Clipped email. If she becomes a problem, we use the policy. A grieving widower is hard for investigators to touch. I confronted him in the kitchen. I saw the policy. The blender stopped. His face went blank, then reptilian rage. He shoved me into the wall. Wedding photos crashed. You have no right. He hauled me up. You are hysterical. That money is for the covenants. If you were a true wife, you'd be honored to be an asset. He raised his hand. Stopped. Pray for forgiveness. I ran upstairs, locked the door, photographed the bruises. Sunday the sermon was the ultimate sacrifice. Gloria walked the stage. Sometimes the covenants ask for everything. If a life is given for the neighborhood, it is a glorious seed. I felt the chill. The man was recording the sermon on a digital voice recorder aimed at the podium, priming the audience for a martyr narrative. My burner buzzed. I know about the policy. The email is the key. Do not be alone with him. The text from Ethan arrived Saturday night on the burner, hidden in a hollow deodorant stick. Tomorrow is the big pledge drive for the community center. That is the trigger. Be ready. Instructions. Make sure the projector works. Record the audio of false claims. Copy the final inflated financial report. If we get this, the DEA moves Monday. I didn't sleep. Sunday the sky was bruise-colored. I dressed in armor, a navy suit buttoned to the chin. The hall buzzed with manic energy. Ushers in best suits. I slipped into the AV booth, copied the presentation to a USB while pretending to check slides. Task 1 done. I took my seat. Marcus squeezed my hand. Big day. Pray for the harvest. I whisper back. I'm praying for justice. The man was in his spot. 2 rows behind him. 3 men in perfect suits scanned exits. The cavalry. Gloria paced the stage. God has given us a vision too big for our bank accounts. The screen showed a 10 million goal and current assets of 5 million I knew were already in Cayman accounts. I hit record on the phone in my lap. Task 2. The man's pen scratched furiously. My burner vibrated. Enough. Stop recording. Leave immediately after benediction. Do not get in a car with Marcus. Something has changed. The altar call began. Buckets passed. People wrote checks. As soon as a man, I stood. Marcus grabbed my elbow. Let's grab lunch. New Italian by the river. Talk about the future. His smile was deadly. A drive by the river? Slippery road? I made an excuse about warehouse inventory. He narrowed his eyes, but let me go. I walked out the side exit. Marcus was heading to his SUV. The 3 suited men walked parallel, watching. Near a pillar, Ethan spoke into a radio, gesturing stand down. Why? They had evidence. I ran to my car, drove to the Safe Mall food court. Hours passed. Finally the burner. Change of plans. No raid today. Stay public. What happened? We found something else. Bigger than fraud. Stay away from him. I checked into a motel under fake name. Watched local news. Nothing. Silence. The man had gone dark. Monday morning, 6:17 a.m. Heavy knocking. 2 sheriff's deputies. Mrs. Bennett, terrible news. Your husband Marcus. Accident on the scenic highway. Lost control. Pronounced dead at scene. Alcohol and speed. Open bottle in the footwell. Strange documents scattered. Life insurance policy and handwritten notes. Looked like he was planning something. Dead. My first thought wasn't grief. It was relief mixed with terror. The contingency had backfired. The violence he planned for me had consumed him. The next 3 days were a blur. Gloria did not let me grieve privately. Damage control. Marcus was a martyr. Mechanical failure. Alcohol never mentioned. I was installed in the big house, surrounded by bored wives monitoring me, feeding me sedatives. We need you strong. You're the symbol of Marcus's legacy now. Gloria came Tuesday night. Funeral Thursday in the hall. Expect 2,000. I've drafted your eulogy. You will tell them Marcus was a man of integrity. The paper was pure fiction. I said I would read it. Wednesday night, the house empty. I slipped into Marcus's office. Laptop password, Proverbs 10 verse 22. Last open draft email to Gloria. Timestamped Sunday afternoon. Pressure too high. Guys in suits watching. Execute exit strategy tonight. Get hard drives. If it collapses, blame Sophia. I've broken her enough, she'll sign anything. If not, take her for a drive and use the policy. Cold rage settled in my chest. He had been driving to prepare my murder. I printed the email, folded it tiny, replaced the photo in my funeral locket with it. Let them dress me up. I was walking in with truth against my heart. Thursday morning, gray and wet. Limousine silent. Gloria opposite, reading the covenants. When we arrived, the crowd was massive. News vans. I walked the aisle like a sleepwalker. The hall smelled of thousands of white lilies, cloying, masking rot. The casket center aisle, closed, draped in white with gold crosses. No. HOA pins. Seating, front row family. Second row board. My old third row had a black ribbon, reserved for memory. Fourth row. Ethan sat in seat 3, black suit sharp. He wasn't looking at the casket. He was looking at me. I sang, listen. Wait. Gloria took the podium. Voice breaking theatrically. We honor a man who gave everything victim of a fallen world. Then the pivot. Marcus would not want flowers. He would want seeds. A legacy offering today to keep the community center vision alive. The organ played manipulative chords. Chairs scraped loudly from the fourth row. Before we take the offering, the neighborhood needs to see something. Gloria blinked. This is highly irregular. Who is that? Ethan stepped into the light. Ethan Cole, lead investigator, State Task Force on Homeowners Association fraud. He placed a badge on the podium. Gasps. Gloria lunged. Cut the mic, but the AV kid didn't. Ethan had prepped him. I apologize for doing this at a funeral. But truth doesn't wait. For 7 years, this association has been a front for massive fraud. The man in the casket and President Hargrove behind me were the architects. He clicked a remote. The montage vanished. Real ledger appeared. Your dues went to shell companies owned by Marcus and Gloria. Murmurs turned angry. Another click. The life insurance policy blown up. And this is why I'm here. Fraud is one thing. Murder is another. He looked at me. The room followed. We sat one row behind Mrs. Bennett for 7 years. Not because she was a suspect, but because she was a target. 3 weeks ago, we found evidence Marcus planned to liquidate his final asset, his wife. The email appeared 10 feet tall. If she refuses, take her for a drive and use the policy. Screams. Eli shouted from the back. Ethan turned to Gloria. Gloria Hargrove, you're under arrest for wire fraud, racketeering, and conspiracy to commit murder. Federal agents rose from pews. Handcuffs clicked. Gloria screamed, persecution. I am the president. Ethan into the mic. The covenants aren't in this building anymore. Sharon. No. Gloria's husband tried to run. Agents stopped him. Gloria's wife lunged at me, screaming, traitor. Ethan vaulted the stage, caught her wrists. A family doesn't take $10 million insurance on a daughter-in-law. A family doesn't need an investigator sitting behind them every Sunday to stop the treasurer from killing his wife. He released her. She collapsed sobbing for the empire, not the man. Agents dragged Gloria down the aisle. Cameras that came for eulogy now filmed perp walk. I stood, turned, Ethan breathing hard. You were never watching me, were you? He nodded. We were building the case against them. But you saved yourself, Sophia. You trusted the numbers. He handed me immunity papers and protective status. From now on, you choose where you sit. And who sits beside you. You never have to have anyone behind you again. I looked at the empty fourth row. The notebook was gone. The man hadn't just been investigating. He had been my human shield. I walked down the center aisle. Heels clicking where I had once walked as bride, then widow, now survivor. At the doors, I turned one last time. Caution tape around the podium. I pushed the oak doors open. The rain had stopped. Sun broke through, bright, beautiful. Behind me, the final click of handcuffs on Gloria. I stepped into the light and didn't look back. Thank you so much for listening to my story. The covenants of Maple Ridge may be gone, but the lessons remain. Never ignore the quiet man taking notes. Never sign blank certificates, and never underestimate what a few hidden spreadsheets can do when the numbers finally talk. If you're dealing with your own HOA Karen right now, drop a comment. Where are you watching from? I read every single one. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so more people hear the truth about Homeowners Association drama. Stay safe out there, and remember, sometimes the creep behind you is the only one keeping you alive.